Welcome back everybody to a new video. Today we're going to be taking this web design right here, which was designed by one of my students, and we're going to be converting it and redesigning it to be simply better and to follow design principles. Okay, so if you see this like straight away, it might be most of you might be on this level. Well, you can't get things to quite look right. Just your design might be boring with too much white space, or you don't know what to put in. So don't worry. Today we're gonna go over everything and discuss everything you need. Okay, so let's start by just creating a desktop layout here, 1440 by 1024, and this will be our landing page, uh, desktop, edited. Okay, so first thing, we always start with the navbar. Okay, so how can we improve? Let's just duplicate and put it over here. So how do we improve this navbar? First thing here is this. So when we think about like the company's identity, which is the name and the logo, most of the time you want the logo to come first. So if you're a beginner especially, you don't want to break like conventions. So you want to stay conventions until you're ready with enough knowledge to break them. So another thing, we want to center align them and we want to change their heights. Okay, so 16 pixels here is actually correct. Semi-bold works fine. This text is actually pretty good. Enter is also a good font to keep as a beginner. And 20 pixels here is nice. So everything here works fine. Obviously we don't need, okay, 8 pixels gap is good, but we don't need the padding and we don't need uh, from the top and bottom too. So this will be our logo, which was good. He edited that good. Okay, then following on with the navbar, you can see what he was trying to do. As he wanted, this is good. That you want to give an indication of which page you're in. But there are still some problems to solve. One thing we might consider is we might want to make this a bit darker, just a bit, just to give it a little bit of contrast. And 18 pixels here is too large. Most of the time this has higher visual hierarchy and this is bigger. So we just want to decrease it to the body font, which is most of the time 14. Okay, following that, 60 pixels I think here is a bit too wide. We can try to go 48, which I think is better. So about numbers, obviously here we have 8 pixel gap, 48, 16 pixels, 14 pixels. So when you decide on numbers as a beginner UI UX designer, a good rule to follow is that you want your numbers to be multiples of 6 and 8. So like numbers like 6, 12, 16, uh, 18, 24, 32, those numbers are good multiples of 6 and 8, so it's better to use them. Okay, so when we come here to the call to action, obviously this is a bit too big too. We can't go quite 14 because there is a bit of visual hierarchy here, so we would go 16 and bold. I would change it to semi-bold just to stay consistent, with what we're doing there. Also, sign up is actually one word, not two. Then we have to follow a rule, which is good to follow, which is you want your padding to be wider on the sides than it is longer on the top and bottom. So he actually did that, but we would like to increase it just a bit more. Okay, so the sign up button here is good. Then what we want to do is most of the time if you have a sign up, what you want to do is you want to have a login. So you're just gonna group these. 16 pixels I think works fine. hack container. Okay. So if you have a sign up, it's better to have a login. Okay, sorry about that. Let's just return here. So when you have a login, it can't be like this, since these two call to actions are with the same like style. So there is no visual hierarchy separation here. When in reality you want the sign up button to stand up more than the login button. So what we can do is we can remove or change the fill to white. We can change the text here to black, and we can give it a border. And you don't want your borders to be 100% black, because you can do that if it's a design choice, like if that's the style of your brand. But here we're gonna go for minimalism, and we can just make it a bit lighter. So E3, E3, E3. I got a number right there. Okay, so here is our navbar. Now that we have edited it, we have to like position it well. So how do we do that? I like to use columns, either 12, 14, or 16. So I typically use 16 for like dashboards and like design content heavy designs. So if you have so much content, it's better to use 16. But this is quite a minimalistic website, so I'm gonna go 12. Then what you can do is we can go put this right here, and okay, then also now we can remove this and give this a padding on the top and bottom of 16. Okay, sorry about that noise. Uh, okay, so after giving it the padding, I think the whole nav bar is done. Uh, we can just center align it to see. Okay, is there any separation here that we should be? Okay, so it seems that there is a bit here. Let's just make sure everything is correctly aligned. Okay, then we can remove this. Okay, now this is our navbar. Okay, following the navbar, we can move on to the hero section, which I know is something most people like struggle with, most beginners especially. So we're gonna take this and try to remake it into a more interesting hero section. Okay, let's start here. 48 is actually a good size, but I'm gonna change this to semi-bold uh, to make it consistent. So consistency is key, uh, especially if you're a beginner. You don't want to use like bold, semi-bold, italic. I recommend using regular and bold. But here, since we are already using semi-bold, it's better to keep with that trend. Also here, let's just change it to AB. This was the color. Also, you don't want long takes to be semi-bold. You want it to be regular. Okay, then what? The get started button, we can just duplicate it here. We can copy it and Control Shift R. And instead of sign up, we want to say get started. The reason we do that is because your hero section wants to convey more of a marketing sense. That means you want to like get the user to do some immediate action. Here, sign up is an option. You always give the user an option to sign up on the navbar, but here it's much more immediate. So get started just feels more like uh, provoking an immediate action than sign up. Okay, then we would want to like do the same. We want to let's actually duplicate this completely and replace this here. And here, instead of sign up again, we go get started. And here, instead of login, we want to say We want to say learn more, maybe learn more. Or we can say watch video, learn more, for maybe an explainer video of the product. Then we want to make these a bit more interesting here. How do we do that? The easiest way to do that is by adding visual accents. For example, we can add like an arrow, a triangle arrow here. Very simple. We just select the polygon tool, give it, I would like to flatten it just to make it easier to work with. Make it white, put it here, make it a bit smaller. Maybe give it 14 pixels here, 12 pixels here. Okay. Then you can rotate it to be -19, meaning pointing forward. Again, 12 is I think a bit too big, so 8. Okay, then we can just come here and give it some spacing. Okay, now for the learn more button, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open an icon pack file in Figma. This is the icon pack file in Figma, which is the XNIX icon pack. It's my favorite icon pack that which I use. So we can just go over to the line icons, and I think it's around here in the cameras. Here too, this is like a good icon for videos. So we can just copy it and come here and just paste it here. Okay, when you use an external icon, there is always something you want to do, which is you want to outline stroke. Okay, now give it 8 pixel gap and make this a bit smaller. So this is 16 pixels. Let's just reduce this to be 14 pixels. Okay, so now we have like, this is more interesting than just plainly having a get started button. Following that, we want to make this a bit more interesting too. Now it says your all-in-one hub for online teaching resources. We can actually change this to make it more interesting. You can, okay, so one thing you can do in headlines is choose one or two words which are the focal point of the headline. So I think teaching resources is the main point here. So now you can make this an accent. How do you do that? Very simple. First, you can change its font. You can make it, if your design is mostly serif font, sans serif font, you can change it to serif. If you're a beginner, I want you to stay with only Playfair display, which I think is the best serif font, especially for beginners. Then we could actually select an accent color. And I'm thinking this orange here. Okay, so I think this orange is a good accent color. So now as we look at it here, there's obviously like a clear separation. So regarding like the gaps here, you don't want to go 41 because it's not like a good number. We have talked about multiples of 6 and 8, so there's 32. Here we can go 16, which is good. And here I think there is a bit too much line height. So let's just reduce that a bit. Okay, so, and how we can say 100. Okay, from 100 we can reduce it. Okay, so I think this looks good. 52. Okay, yeah, I think that's better. So following that, we are left with the image. So let's just duplicate it. So how do we make this image more interesting? Very simply, there are so many ways you can do that. One way is just to adjust this corner radius. So this sort of corner radius was popular a while ago, and I think here it's just very simple, and we can do that to make it more interesting. Also, we can just adjust some things here to make them fill a container. And very simple, we just change the corner radius and the image is just better from square. Actually, this looks good too. But from just having square corners to rounded corners, this is much better. So now we can just group these and actually give it some gap, 48, to stay consistent with 8 and 6. Now you want to center align everything here. So this is our hero section. Now obviously this is not like a really advanced hero section. The point of this video is to show you how you can follow just some design principles and convert what will look like boring designs into um, designs, such designs which look more interesting. Like this design in principle is very good actually. I don't hate it. My student actually here did a quite a good job as a beginner. But obviously by just following design principles we made it much better. Okay, so now we can go here, maybe 64, I think. Okay, then let's make this window a bit. Okay, let's come here before that, and from the center we want to say top left and just make it a bit larger. Okay, next up we have this section, which was the feature section. Now obviously he tried to make it like as good as possible, but sections such as this, such as the footer section, it's pretty hard to make for, especially for beginners. So we're going to be focusing on how we can do that here. First thing, whenever you have a new section, you would like to give it a headline and subheadline. So let's give it a headline. Let's say our uh, what we offer. This kind of a good headline. 48 would work here too. It's fine. Then let's actually copy this body text. Our platform offers both students and teachers, quality teachers, to make education possible. Okay, so just some text here. Obviously, we can actually go to the home. Actually, it's good here too. We can just reduce the size of this. Let's just reduce it, drag it to. Okay, then we can just group these. 16 pixels, I think, works here. Central align them, central align this one too. Okay, so this is just our headline. Then let's actually try to fix this. Okay, straight away. Let's just duplicate it here. How can we make this better? First of all, this is not quite obvious what this is. So actually, we're gonna give it a name and we're gonna give it something to like separate it. So let's say that its name is drag and drop support. Okay, okay, let's say fast file sharing. So the name of this feature is fast file sharing. Let's make this a bit big, 32 maybe, and I'm going to actually change it to play fair display because you want to use this accent like sparklet in here and there in your website. Also, this icon, let's just duplicate it. This icon uh, looks boring. You can just put it here, but it does look boring. So what we will do is actually very simple. We're gonna make it in a frame. The frame will have, okay, let's give it a 24 by 24 padding and give it a 999 border radius. Then sorry, we're gonna give it a fill of, maybe we can give it a fill of this color, and we're gonna go and to the black and give it a fill of this color and make it lighter. Okay, just a bit lighter, light enough so that it's visible. Okay, so this is like our title. You can group it even. 16. Okay, let's center align it. Okay, then what we can do is we can add these features. So obviously you don't want your body text to be bold, and let's remove this dot here. So we just want this to be regular. Okay, so let's make drag and drop this too. Okay, so everything here you want to be regular and not 16 pixels, but actually 14 pixels. Okay, so then we can just group these and make them a bit close to each other. I think 24 works here. So these are like the features, but we need like an indicator of the features. So how can we do that? Like maybe you have seen in the past people using this. So I'm gonna try something like that, but make it a bit more interesting. So we are already using like this accent over here, so we can reuse that. We can reuse the triangle, or we can use actually a more interesting shape, which is the star. So in Figma, the star icon is very the star shape actually is very interesting. It's very powerful too. Most people don't realize that. Sorry. Okay, so what we can do here is make the star not one, but maybe like this, and we can make it a bit bigger. Then we want to flatten it, and we want to give it the accent color. So now let's ungroup this actually, and we want to take this and group it together, give it a pixel gapping. Then we want to just duplicate this a couple of times, and let's cut this here and paste it here, and do the same here. Cut, paste. Okay, let's remove this. So now these are our features. So we can now group them safely and give it 24 pixel gap, and this works. But now we need like a container to like my student here did well giving it a container, but now we need a container for us too. So first I'm going to group everything here and give it some padding, but instead of giving it a padding, I'm just going to give it a stroke first. So the stroke here would be like the color which we've been using, which was E3, E3, E3. Okay, so I think looking at it right now, maybe E3 is a bit too light, so let's just drag it a bit and just a bit more, just a subtle. Okay, so now you can see that it is working well. There's a bit more of contrast here. Okay, then we want to keep on with our style and give it a corner radius. Let's go 8 pixels. Okay, so now we want this to take the full width, and we want to give it a padding on the side 32 by 16 maybe, and also this should have its content. Okay, now the reason I did it separately is because I want to give it its own stroke, and I want to be the bottom stroke. And let's go with the same here, D5 I think it was. Then actually what we can do is we have this right here now, and we can remove the gap. 44, we don't need that. Instead we can go here, 32 on the size to be consistent, and 16 I think. Okay, there obviously could be. Okay, so we want these all to hug content. Okay, now it's working. Obviously this actually looks better than this actually already, but I want to give it like a bit of padding on the top and bottom here. So, okay, now this is more clear. Then I want to go here and actually, let's try to give it a separate background color. Let's just go for an off-white color. And you can see that this covers the border radius and the border. So we can actually just go and clip content and that will fix it. So now we have this sort of feature indicator here, which is already, you can obviously see the difference. We can actually make this even lighter just to see. Okay. Okay, so now we have to like duplicate this since he created two of them here, and we're going to be doing the same thing basically. So just put it here, 14 and regular. That's all we're going to change. Here, just duplicate what we've been doing throughout. Okay, so now we want to give it a bit more space. Okay, we want to actually make this fill the container. So fill container, and we want to give it a bit more space. Okay, this should fill the container, this should fill the container, this should also fill the container. So now when we, okay, now this works. But this is, let's try to fix this one. This should be filled. Okay, nice. Okay, so this is a bit too wide, I think, so let's just try to make it here. Okay, that's a good size, so 351, 351 here too. Okay. Then what we want to do is we want to do the same for the icon. So just cut the icon, or just, and we can Control Shift R to replace here, and we can make it to the light color. Everything we need to do has been done. Okay, but we can also like make it. Okay, we can make this fill the height to give it a consistent height. And these are our two features for now. We can just group them together, give it a 24 pixel gap, and central alignment. Okay, so here we can give it some spacing. 64 might work. I will just go 48 just to reduce it a bit. Then we want to like give it some spacing in regards to the here section. I'm just gonna go 96 because it's a good number to have between sections, or I always use 96. You can choose like a good number you think. Okay, so we also have to change this. Okay, what is it? The actual feature? Smart folders to keep material. Okay, we can change this to organized learning. Okay, that's too much, so uh, it's just proper learning, proper learning. Just a bit, okay. The body text here doesn't matter really. We want to just focus on the design part here. If you want in the future, I can make a video about copywriting. So text, actually text copy, not okay, so the final part is the pricing, and we can simply just copy and paste here. Let's make this 48 to just be consistent and go semi-bold. Let's make this a bit wider. Okay, and that works. So you want to Obviously you want to go to container and make it hug the content. And we have to change this text in reality, but I'm just going to save time by not doing that. Now we're going to be following like the same trend that we have done here. We're going to go $0 instead of the icon here. We can just remove the icon and just add in $0 or $0. This has to be inner, and I'm just going to give it some, it's 36, I think works well. Then I want it to be white actually. The reason I want it to be white is because there is much more visual hierarchy related with the icon, with the text with the icon. So the icon is just for accent. It doesn't really matter if it's there or not. But the $0 is an important piece which you want to make sure people are able to see. Then instead of fast file sharing, we want to say starter, and do the same thing here too. Okay, let's just make this. Do the same thing by just going here, Pro package. You can actually go here and say starter package, and just okay. Let's just duplicate this one more time, and okay, academy. Let's make this a bit bigger. Obviously, this has to just hug the content, and this too. So let's central line this. Okay, great. Here there appears to be some difference. Okay, the difference is in the number, so we have to go. Let's just Control C, Shift R. Okay, so $9. Here we want to change it to, I think it's $25. Okay, so now when we write 25, you can see that it's much more of a pill than actual circle, so we can change that. Let's actually make the width 92 to, okay, let's central align this, and that works actually. That works. Okay, so everything now aligned. Okay, so what remains is this permanence is, we can just think of like these points as being these ones, so we don't need to go over and change everything one by one just to save time. What remains is the permanence. This is actually very important. The reason for that is this $9 package might be for a year. You don't know that, so we want to actually indicate that it's per month. And I found a way which is pretty cool, and gives our design much more of an interesting point. We can say per month and give it 14 pixels, make it regular, and put it in a pill. So just give it 16 by 16 maybe, 0 pixel gap, and corner radius 999. Okay. Now let's give it the stroke which we've been using throughout the website. As D5. Okay, this was the stroke. So also we need a background color. Now you could just go over here. Maybe this has to be okay. Okay, let's make this a bit smaller actually. So typically you don't want to go lower than 14 pixels, but here I'm gonna choose to do that just because it's more of an accent. So we can reduce this to be 8 by 8. Let's actually increase this to 12. Okay, now we have this pill container, and even if we just put this like here, this works well, and I actually pretty like that. So what another thing you can do though, which is a bit more interesting, is you can go 1% fill and give it an effect. The effect would be a background blur, and you can increase it to maybe 32, and this will give it like a glassmorphic effect. So it's your decision on which one you want to try out. I like this one because even after doing this, what we can do is we can make it a bit more interesting by just tilting it, not that way, but this way, just a bit. 13. Okay, so now we can just duplicate it and get it here, right? Like around the same area. Finally, we can duplicate this one once more and place it just around here. Then actually what we can do here is the $0 per month doesn't make sense. So we can say forever. Okay, so now we have like this interesting and cool effect. You could still go with the white. That's actually pretty cool too. But I like this one much more. So what we can do is we can just drag it a bit top. We want this to be 96 pixels to stay consistent. And we have created a huge improvement over this pricing section. Now, obviously, the footer remained, and that is actually something I want all of you to try out. So you can just go over down below in the description and get this Figma file, and you can duplicate this design and add the footer on your own. I want you like to participate and to practice by creating your own footer section. That's all for today, actually. We can just review what we did. We can see the changes. This was where we started from, obviously. It's not a bad design for a beginner. It's actually pretty good. But it lacked some design principles, but just by adding principles and just by adding a bit of interesting points here, you made it much more interesting. Okay, so thanks for watching. Please, if you have like web redesign ideas or designs that you made that you want redesigned, you can get my Twitter handle or X handle actually in the description, and just you can contact me there and send me the design file, and I'll edit it live on YouTube. Also, if you want private mentorship, I offer that too. You can just contact me on the same place on the X. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed and learned more than enjoyment. So again, thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.